Hey, welcome back to the show. Pete, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Now I can hear you just fine. Well, I think this is...
It's rabbit season. No, wait a minute. It's budget season.
It's budget season. Nah, the budget season's over.
Yeah?
Yeah. And you still got a job, so that's a win for you guys.
It is a win for me, yeah.
Yeah, so this is...
My department was funded for yet another year.
Yeah, imagine that. Plus, you got that new rig we're all talking about here.
Yeah, this year I will probably be coming in front of council to... I was notified about 3 weeks ago, that the playback system, which we purchased nearly a decade ago, is coming end of life.
Playback system?
The TelView playback system that plays back everything for Channel 15 and Channel 12 is coming to end of life, but it's good news, bad news thing. They've integrated a lot of elements that used to be separate hardware into the main hardware box now. So it'll be less equipment going forward, less service costs for maintenance agreements, things like that. And they've been really great about, over the years, they've been wonderful about service.
Is there a subscription cost? Because that seems to be the thing with these things.
There's no subscription cost except for like maintenance contracts and things like that. So we over the years we've had a hard drive fail, I think, and they shipped me a new one, and I replaced it and I shipped back the old one. I mean, these are minor issues that we've had with the system. It's been chugging nonstop for a decade. I would consider that's got a useful life out of itself.
Yeah. I have no complaints.
And now they've integrated everything into kind of one hardware platform, so that's what I'm going for next. And it does a lot of work. I mean, it plays back all the stuff for Channel 15. It integrates real-time captioning. It does crawls during snow emergencies.
All right, Pete, how much is it going to cost? That's really what's the most important thing.
I think it was only like $36,000, which is... In the grand scheme of things, the total budget was $170 million.
It was. I'm actually working on getting you that figure.
I think it was. I think I heard that. That's not around. It's not an insignificant amount of money because I take all that stuff actually very seriously.
Yes,
but
yes,
it is money that is not paid by the taxpayer.
That's true.
It comes out of the franchise fee account.
Can you explain what the franchise fee is?
Right. You'll see that in your cable bill. It only applies to cable television. It does not apply to other products that Comcast puts out.
So if I get my Wi-Fi from Comcast, I don't pay that. Is that
Correct. The franchise fee is only assessed on cable television.
Thank you. And that is generating, do you know roughly, not to put you on the spot, but how much per year?
It was about 320 or 30,000 last year.
Yeah.
Down from 620,000.
Used to be like 600 and change many years ago, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Around the time the Whip City Fiber started, it was around 620,000.
Yes. Well, hey, so we're on with the show. It's the June 23rd edition of the show. It's actually, Pete, I was going back to the archives.
Yes.
It's the 6th, and Ken and I discussed this. We don't really tape these anymore, where these are recorded, right? Is that
either way,
it's not really tape,
the colloquial term tape still applies.
Yes. But anyways,
I did show number 1, as I recall.
Did, yes, and you know what? And I'm struggling here right now to get up the. Maybe you can help me. I don't know. I thought I had it in my vicious show prep earlier, but this is the 6th. So you know what? We had a slow start out of the gate because we didn't get a show done until early February, but we caught up. So we got 6 done in 6 months. So this is kind of the end of the fiscal year recap show. And it was a busy fiscal year. Let me tell you that right now.
Yeah.
As you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just a tad. Yes.
And I'm gonna try to regale you with all sorts of numbers and things of this nature, if I can. Actually.
I'm looking to see if they posted the FY20 mayor's budget on the website.
It's probably not. Yeah, probably not yet. But I can tell you that I'm gonna try to do the math online when we sneak in some time here while you're.
You do know that an agenda came out for a special meeting on Thursday.
I did, and I am prepared to talk about that.
I think the fire department kind of alluded to that.
Well, that's
when they
breaking
were in for their
news.
budget for their budget meeting.
Yeah, that's breaking news, Pete. So sometimes, even though we're very delayed at times with what it is that we when we tape, the breaking news we have to have music for breaking news, Pete. You got to come up with something.
Okay.
I'm not to put you on the spot right now, but think about it. There you go.
I have a sounder for that.
All right. So the breaking news is we actually are called into special session. The mayor has requested, and that's can only happen if you can get 7 members to show up. And apparently, I don't know how many.
You have to have a
show.
quorum. Yeah.
You have to have a quorum. That's correct. And the issue is a request for immediate consideration and approval of an appropriation of $63,747.50 from the free cash account.
The daunted free cash.
The
Misnamed free cash.
Misnamed.
I learned that during the budget hearings.
Overused, misnomered free cash account to the fire department capital project account to replace 2 HVAC rooftop units at the fire department headquarters at 34 Broad Street. Apparently they've failed or are failing.
I saw the guys with the doors open today sitting outside because it must have been cooler outside than it was inside the building.
So they need apparently a new HVAC system, which isn't surprising. That building was built roughly about 1973. I'm not sure if that's original equipment, but you know what? I can probably tell you here. Hold on.
I bet you it was close to being original equipment.
Let's see what the chief has to say about this. I hereby request the sum of $63,747.50. Rooftop units are over 25 years old and are problematic at this point. That's what they are. So they're probably on their second life. That's probably units number 2 because I bet you we got 25 years out of the first units.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I do have a special request because at some point we're going to play this. So in the last shows that you missed, we've been sometimes introducing some money-themed music to the show.
Okay.
So I kind of listed them like most popular. I have 1 to 7. We did the OJs for the Love of Money, which is a great tune. We did Pink Floyd last taping, recording, and that was Money, which was one of my all-time favorites. But you're going to need to find for me Notorious B.I.G., Mo Money, Mo Problems.
Probably a clean version.
The clean version, yes. This is a family-friendly show, Pete. You know that.
I don't play unclean versions.
Right. So anyways, at some point in the show, we will cue that up, listen for a couple of seconds, and then we'll talk over it like we like to talk over things.
Okay.
Yeah, so that worked out pretty good. But it's all money themed. We're watching your money here. And so, your question was, what did the budget end at? You got a calculator handy?
A calculator, you mean?
Yeah. We're going to do some live air mathesthetics.
All right. I'll pull up the calculator on my telephone.
All right. Tell me when you're ready to rock and roll.
Okay.
So here's what I think is going to be the final budgetary number. You ready?
Yep.
This is very small print. I'm going to try to do my best here. Boy, oh boy. I think it says 180
Yep.
402 986.
Okay.
Could be wrong. 402 could be a different number, but it's pretty close. Subtract from that number the sum of 155 562 and 20 cents. And what do you get?
You get 180, 247.
That cannot be possible, my friend. I gave you as a starting point 180 402, I believe.
You gave me 155,562.20.
It's 1,555 562.20.
So I need to be another zero.
Yes, or some other friendly digit that gets you to $1 million and change.
Okay, so 178, 847, 365.
847 365 and like 80 cents.
And like 80 cents.
All right. So I think that's what the final number is because we were successful in achieving the sum of 1.555 562.20 in budget reductions the other night. Okay?
Okay.
So the goal was, as you remember, because you taped them all, you recorded them all, was to try to get from 4% levy increase to 2.5%. I think we've achieved that situation.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that would be your goal.
That was the goal. I believe that we got there in fine fashion with a little bit of room to spare.
Now, was there a lot of dissent or
No, it was actually an 11-0 vote.
I saw that in the appropriations because I was at public safety night.
Yes. Yes, you were. Oh, you were spying on us from your remote rig. Yes.
I was also videoing Lifestar coming in to land,
Yep.
and then the people partaking in touring the helicopter,
Yep.
and then their departure from the old mast camp because I was in a good spot.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fun time. I remember going to all those when the kids were much younger.
A little rainy.
Yeah, a little rainy. Yeah, that's okay. I'm just looking for something now that I can't believe it. If I can't find it, I'd have to pull it up. Good Lordy Lou. I had everything in order. Then I got miscombobulated here. Oh, man, I can't believe it. No, terrible, terrible. Anyways, I'll find it. You know what I'll do is there's another place I can look for it. Let's see. So one of the things I wanted to share, because we covered a lot of ground, we started the year talking a little bit about fund balances, right?
Okay.
And fund balances, like what kind of money, your money, is the city sitting on, right? So some things to pay attention to here. So I'll give you kind of.
Does the city have a rainy day fund?
It does. It's called, we refer to that as the stabilization account.
Okay.
So that number, back when I first took office in January of this year, on January 15th, stood at $10,471,965.88. That's the rainy day fund / stabilization. And I see that in the June edition of that, because those are interest-bearing accounts, that number now is $10,716,086 and $57. Excuse me, 57 cents. $86.57. So it went up a few $100,000. That's not too shabby. It takes 2/3 vote of the city council, 9 votes, to get money from that fund. Okay? You clear on that?
Yep.
All right. Then we had this fund called Stabilization Fund Reserve for Debt Decline. So that's at $7,354,055. However, we used $1.25 million to balance the budget this year because we were anticipating some additional bond-related debt obligations associated with some borrowing that was going to go on. Remember, I've talked about this before. We try to budget in the city some number around like 7 to 9 million, and this goes back like 30 years, always to have a set rate somewhere in that dollar value so the city can bring on borrowing for new projects and things of this nature. So we knew there was going to be a little bit of an uptick because of some recent construction. So they have a plan, they being the city administration, to bring in some of that money every year to help offset the little uptick in that account. Now, the treasurer, Matt Barnes, does monitor what the borrowing is needed for long-term, short-term interest and whatnot. And he actually was able, at the last minute, offer up $150,000 in cuts from his long-term interest and short-term interest accounts. And that actually was very helpful in getting us to the point where we didn't have to do any reductions in the police budget, which was proposed at. So that was good news. So that's a fund. The other one is the OPEB fund. We put in $250,000 as part of the budget appropriation. I have this as of June 18th in at $2.429,891.16. So that's going to go up by $250,000. So the actual OPEB number, how much do we owe other post-employment benefits? This is like the health insurance.
I remember this is Dave Flaherty's big thing back in the day.
Yes. And it's massive. The number is like, it depends. Every couple of years you get an actuary, and it can go up and go down depending upon the city's history with its health insurance. But it's probably, some sum between $240 million and $300 million. But again, it would only come fully due if everybody retired all at the same time, which isn't going to happen. So we pay that now on pay-as-you-go type of thing. So when somebody retires, the city's on the hook for 50% of their health insurance bill. And as a retiree gets added on, we pay that. And as a retiree sadly passes away, an obligation comes off the book.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Right. So the other fund is something referred to as reserve for unforeseen. That's usually loaded when the free cash numbers are certified at $100,000. It was at $15,000 when I got into office. It's now zero, so we've used it since then.
That's for like judgments against the city,
stuff you just don't
potential
know.
contract negotiations that happen.
Yeah, that could all happen. Yep, and that's a majority vote to get money from that fund as well.
Yep.
And then there's the certified free cash line. This is kind of interesting. So back in January, it was $13,176,970. $13 million, almost $14 million, right? Today it sits at $5,060,709. But as you know, because I just read the breaking news forecast, we're going to appropriate a sum about $64,000 from that. So it'll be just under $5 million. We're going to end the fiscal year on. Fiscal year ends on June 30th. Of every year, right? So then it disappears, right? And then over the next months that come after that, all the books are cleared, the accounts are cleared, all the city receipts are calculated, new growth is calculated, and then sometime in the fall, just before tax rating season, the number comes back to us certified. And that's where that term comes from, free cash. But I want to share, one of the things I enjoy doing is going back through like the city's history at relative things, because there's not too much new stuff that you actually invent, if you will, especially in this line of work. We probably have already been down there, but with numbers, particularly in city financial performance, it's kind of a fascinating journey. There's a lot of documents. So I came across this letter to the city council way back when, November 16, 2006. Free cash just apparently was going to be certified. To the city council from Richard K. Sullivan, Jr., the mayor at the time, and I was on the council at that time. Mm-hmm. It says, please let this letter serve to give you advance notice that I anticipate that the state will soon formally certify that the city of Westfield has $1.291579 in free cash. Wow. That's not a lot of money, right?
No, it's not.
Especially in the last 15 years, the numbers that have been turned lately. As we enter fiscal year 2007, I will forward a copy of the formal certification upon receipt. I will also be forwarding 3 appropriations from free cash as follows. School deficit. Apparently, we ran a deficit in the school budget that year of $341,349.80. A debt deficit. I'm not sure, but that might have been related to borrowing obligations. $46,099.52. And the snow and ice deficit, $704,581.88. Says, please appropriate $1.92 $1.31 million to the fund balance, reserved for appropriation account. So that was going to be taken, appropriated, and paid later in the year, apparently. And that will leave a balance of $199,547.80 in the free cash account once it all gets certified. Wow, that was a lean year. We had a number of lean years, like to the point where they were nail biting. Like if we had any problems, how would we pay for those? So I will also forward a recommendation to appropriate $46,000 to the stabilization account. This was a fulfillment of the promise I made to replace money from the G&E for the G&E back to the stabilization account fiscal year 2007. I don't remember what that was actually for at the time. It might have been something. I think we were in the middle of like the tech center build out back then, but that's an interesting letter. So the city's financial performance year over year over the last, 15 years of free cash turning has been pretty robust, and it's certainly in the last 6 or 7 years has been phenomenal, to the point where I would have I would have maybe ran for another 8 terms if I had numbers like this. It makes life a lot easier when you have money in the bank.
Sure, yeah.
All right, so keeping on with fund balances. So there's a couple of other ones. Water retained earnings, that's related to the water department, what's sitting in that account. That looks like that's at $1,046,000 roughly and change.
So just a little thing, $1.9 million in 2007 dollars would be $3.05 million today.
So that would be relatively modest, and then
still modest, yeah.
Benchmark to today's numbers, which we were talking about this with the auditor the other night, that she's anticipating on top of the $5 million rollover for next year, maybe another $7 to $9 million more. So maybe next year, you heard it here first. Maybe it's 12 to 13 million again for next year.
Now the free cash, that's if departments save money and don't spend their allocation for the year. That's part of it, right?
That's part of it. The other one is revenues that come in higher than projections.
Over than projection, right?
Yeah, like excise taxes, for instance, or building fees. Another one is new growth. You might have, $500,000 more than you anticipated, so that money can get rolled into that, ultimately. So
I was paying attention, I wasn't just sitting there twiddling my thumbs in those meetings. That's the thing. It's like and the thing is people don't understand. They were very sparsely attended.
Yeah. Well, I have run into people that have watched them at home. They've caught some clips at home, and they appreciate that. They tell me that.
Yeah.
They do tell me. It's not like a number of viewers.
It's just tough that amount of people that complain on social media.
Oh, I know.
And the amount of people that actually attend and or view, because I do check the numbers on views.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
The Taxpayers Association has been there every year. They've always sent somebody.
Yeah.
And usually it's the same faces.
Yeah, no, true.
And those are the people that seem to, I wouldn't say care, because I think everybody cares. Those are the people that make the really effort to go out and really sit in the meeting and catch everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. We don't quite have the media presence we used to have, like with local newspapers, and people don't read newspapers. So even if you sent the reporter, I think the reporters that we do have that do show up do a good job. I'm not saying that they don't, but paper reading is completely different. There's some. I know Amy Porter does a
online.
Story. It is. It's online, but to what degree are people tuning in? So in general, there's just so many pieces of information thrown at people today. You wonder, the bandwidth for local news has always been kind of limited anyways, and the bandwidth for interest in your local government has always been very limited. Like, you can even see that in voter turnout, even in a mayoral election. If you were to get 36 or 35%, even with a contested mayor's race, that's saying something. Normally, if there is no contest, it's like 20%. At a primary, it's like 10%. But state elections maybe 50, 55, and then the Fed election is 75, maybe it's 80. So, people tend to tune in and vote for the thing that they have least likely to impact.
It should be the inverse of those numbers. Should be the inverse, because so many times there's boards and committees and are left their seats unfilled half the time.
Well, we're lucky we don't generally have that problem like they do in some towns that have elected positions. Like, these go unchallenged or they go unfulfilled, and so everything's here pretty much appointed, other than the city council, school committee, municipal light plant board, the library trustees. So it's easier to come up with an appointed individual than it would be, but that's still a challenge. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a few other accounts. We have a stormwater undesignated account. We have the wastewater undesignated account. All these accounts are doing pretty good right now. Wastewater's in at 3.3 million. Stormwater's in at like 1.1 million back in January. Ambulance account is been tapped a little bit. It's finished the year somewhere at like 1.953. So that's a little bit less than 2.06 it was. Towing and storage went up a little bit from 109,000 to 122. So we had a conservation rights fund, 94,000. That's to buy parcels of land, so you can do that. And then that retirement obligation, $85 million, which is on track to be fully paid for, I think by 2034. Which is good news, because then, the annual appropriation, like somewhere in the neighborhood, like 14 million, that gets freed up, and then you don't have to appropriate that. I'm going to presume as we get closer to that, most cities and towns are on track to end that liability at about that time. I'm going to presume that at some point in the near future, the state government will come in and say, look, you need to divert that money or some portion of it thereof to the OPEB account to pay those bills, because that's, I'm sure, what everybody's worried about. And as of June 18th, that OPEB number stood at 290,520,686.
That would be the worst case scenario if everybody retired at once.
Yes, that would be correct. That would be like if everybody retired at once, you would have something. You would have to pay that, and that's not going to happen. Right?
So that's almost like that's like what insurance and annuities are based on and things like that. It's like you pay in a certain amount, and at the end you get the full amount because you're paying whatever along the way.
Yeah, along the way, right. So I will have a cautionary tale on the budget. We'll revisit this topic a little bit later. I got to update some projections. But we did use, on top of the $1.25 million for debt stabilization, we used $2 million in free cash. So you're already in the, if you will, the loss column for next year's budget at $3.25 million from borrowed money, from this year's money. So that's not a gap that can easily be caught up. I'd say something you have to be aware of. So one of the topics I wanted to talk about today was going to be a little bit more about the in lieu of tax payment agreement between the Westfield city government and the Westfield Gas and Electric Municipal Light Board. And just, I was going to take a little bit of a walk down memory lane on that and kind of share with you some historical archives to set the table for a requested, soon to be requested, I think, of the administration over there at the Genie side, engagement on the topic of what should be a fair in lieu of tax payment. Nobody's looking to do something that's unfair, but it is fair to say that there are some challenges with the formula. And I think taking a look back at historical information kind of gives us a good point of reference for that conversation. So, Pete, that's probably a good time to cue the Mo Money, Mo Problems, because we're going to talk about Mo Problems when you go down this road. So,
can I cue up a WWE theme song?
Well, you could
related
do
to that?
Yeah, you could do that. Go ahead, hit me with your best shot.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money,
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar. Ching, ching, bling, bling. Cut the chatter. You ain't talking money, then you're talking no matter.
That reminds me, I picked off a great YouTube clip. I got to go back at some point tonight to watch it. It's Rowdy Roddy Piper interviewing Rocky Johnson May 5th, 1984. Didn't go so well for Rocky, so I got to see what that's all about. So.
Okay.
All right. Anyhow, anywho, so long story short, in some of the documents I have is kind of interesting. Way back in 1986 November, probably in preceding that for a year or two.
Yep.
The Municipal Light Board at the time and the management of the General Gas and Electric were in discussions about, what we should do about the in lieu of tax payment. And as you might recall, the in lieu of tax payment way back then, as a frame of reference, see if I got that number real quick here. I might not. Was probably in
I heard you bring it up.
Yeah, I did. I had it in a document the other day. You know what? I can probably was in the neighborhood of probably $200,000 in that era in time.
So to set the background for it, the Genie doesn't pay property taxes
Right.
on any of its properties in town, right?
No, it's a tax exempt entity actually. Is
Right.
what it was what you would call that, right? So,
And that's by state law.
yeah, correct. So there's a big. That's a nice benefit, right?
Yep.
And so if people, agitate about the cost of, what it is to be in a investor-owned utility territory, and there's a good point on that. There's a lot of other charges when you pay those bills, but those organizations pay significant property tax for all their holdings that they have in these communities, right? And and if they upgrade, and that's happened periodically. If they upgrade, some EverSource substations, if you will, then we get a tax benefit from that. Is
Right.
what I would say, right? Yeah. So, let's see.
And of course, like any business, they pass that cost along to the customer.
Yeah. Well, that's correct. Yeah, and that's going to happen.
Right.
Right. I don't know. I'm not sure. if
Some
I can-
people think they shouldn't, but it's a business.
It is a business, my friend. I'm just trying to find this file here.
Okay.
So I'm struggling a little bit, but I'll find it. Let's see. I just hate doing stuff off my phone,
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, what do I got here? Oh, that's not it. Oh, I might have sent it to Kenny. I think I did. All right, let's see what I got here. Yes, I do. I believe I did. Yes, I have it right here. All right, so, so as a matter of fact, so when they're discussing this creation of this study committee, FY 81 payment was $158,738. I couldn't find a receipt for FY 82, but there must have been a payment, I would imagine. 83 was 200,000, 84 was 200,000, 85 was 200,000, 86 is 200,000, 87 is 200,000. Then there wasn't one for 88, I couldn't find it. 89 was 200,000, 90 was 200,000, 91 was 200,000. And then in 92, it made a bit of a jump, 225, 93 went up 452, 94, 450, 95, 475, 96 it goes back to 250, 97 it goes back to 199, and then from 98 to 2005, pretty good run. It was $250,000, 250, right? And then it went up to 295, right? So then it goes over to, let's see, what was after that? It goes up to 374 in 08, 386. And then it did a period of time from 419 to 485 between 2009 and 2012. Jumped up to 527 and 13, 570 and 14. Goes back down to in 15 to 415. It goes back down to 440 and 16, 440 again in 17, 561 and 18, 555. 550,000 from 19 to 21, 585 and 22, 590 and 23, 568 and 24, 580 and 25, 530 and 26, and 552, 397 in this upcoming year. So, not a lot of movement in all those years, right? 45, almost 50 years. And yet the value of the organization has grown dramatically.
It was
that
shown
same
in the
time
last
frame.
20 years. The value has almost doubled of the dollar.
Yeah. And in fact, I probably can help you out with that concept here because I think I have
I think I ran the numbers through that calculator from $2,007 to $2,026, and 1.9 became 3.1.
Yeah. So, as a for instance, net income in 1985 for the G&E was posted at 1.966 million. Okay, net income. And I want to say that net revenue. Boy, I could be wrong on this one, but let's see what it is here. Current. Let's see. Net revenues 22 fiscal year reported to the Department of Public Utilities, $11 million. That's net after all their expenses and whatnot. Total revenue, though, in 2023 was posted at $82,401,000. So, by all measures, their holdings have become, pretty substantial in the city. So back then, way back then, the Westfield Municipal Light Board accepted the concept of establishing a committee as discussed at the meeting mentioned above. The committee was to include the participants involved in 6 members of the community. 3 of those members would be chosen by mayor. Who was the mayor, Pete, in 1986? Do you remember?
86?
Yeah. You don't know. You weren't here. You were a Springfield boy. Mayor Varellis.
I was going to say Varellis because I think Barbara, my cousin Barbara, was a city councilor.
Yes. And 3 were to be selected by the MLB, not Major League Baseball, by the way. The Westfield Gas Electric was notified by Mayor Varellis on October 30th, 1986 of his appointees. And the MLB selections were voted on at their meeting, at the regular scheduled meeting, November 12th, 1986. The composition of the committee includes some luminaries from Westfield history. David Banish, a mayoral appointee. You remember that guy's name? Remember that, Dave?
I know the name, yeah.
Yeah, city councilor, longtime Banish family. James E. Casey, commissioner, Municipal Light Board, a former city councilor as well. You remember Amy Casey?
Yep.
Yeah, her dad.
Okay.
Fran Kavanaugh, a commissioner, Municipal Light Board. Mark Flahive, the city solicitor. Daniel Galubik, the manager of the Westfield Gas and Electric. Fred Harling. Do you remember Doc Harling?
No.
Longtime professor, nice guy, super nice guy. I went to school with his brother, Rick. With his son, Rick. Secretary of the Municipal Light Board. Kevin Harrigy. Do you remember Kevin Harrigy? Nice guy. Worked for the Department of Revenue. Chairman, Municipal Light Board. Daniel Hunley. I didn't know Daniel Hunley. Mayoral appointee. Tim Kelleher. I'm going to assume it's the same Tim Kelleher.
Yeah, it was Tim.
Yep. Municipal Light Board. Eleanor Larrabee. Mayoral appointee. And I believe, I could talk offline, but I believe we know who that is. Oscar Machado, who was a neighbor of mine. I knew Oscar for many years, went to school with his kids, a Municipal Light Board appointee. Ruth Malinowski, the former city auditor. Daniel J. Smith, a Municipal Light Board appointee. Dan Smith, former Housing Authority Director. And George Varellis, the mayor, is sitting on this committee. It's like a 14-member blue ribbon committee.
That's like the who's.
It is. And what's the objective? They have a nice document here. To evaluate the prudency of establishing a method and appropriate procedure for consideration by the Westfield Municipal Light Board, which would provide for an automatic payment of future in lieu of tax contributions from the Westfield Gas and Electric Light Department to the city of Westfield. They have a tentative target date of December 6th for our first meeting. How about that? So, a couple other things that goes on, some key points way back when. The commission was constituted by Chairman Harrigy, Commissioner Rovelli, Matt Rovelli. He was a longtime employee, IT guy. Commissioner Casey, Mayor Varellis. City wants a commitment by the Westfield Gas Electric on this year's in lieu of tax payment contribution. Maybe they weren't. They've been good over the years of like getting it out in the springtime, letting the mayor know so he can build the budget. They want to know if the amount will be greater than $200,000. Well, we already know that it ended up not being, I believe is what I told you. They want to know the method of the payment, total cash or cashless city accounts, receivable. They would like to form a committee to study and recommend a method which would provide an automatic payment for future in lieu of tax payment. They would like a representative of the Westfield Gas Electric to attend the Board of Engineering meeting at the mayor's office each month. And the Westfield Gas and Electric has not received any official written request for an in lieu of tax payment. That's a key point from the Gas and Electric. Another key point, any decisions about the in lieu of tax contribution must be made by consultation with all members of the Light Board. Number 3, the board may be inclined to help the city, but must consider its obligation to the ratepayers. Number 4, in the spirit of cooperation, some agreement should be reached on the current disputes of discretionary expenses approved by the board. Like we don't have a dispute about this. It's just kind of like, this is what we get charged. The care and maintenance of the traffic lights has been posted for years and years and years at $60,000 a year. If the city is to receive the benefits of an in lieu of tax contribution, then the city should make every effort to use the products of the Westfield Gas and Electric. Now, that's interesting, right? You'd say, wait, well, like way back then, what weren't they using?
Right.
well, you could say maybe today, I think now it's a little bit different, but I think they use all the fiber connections, right? And they pay all that. I
That's
think.
every connection to every building
Yeah.
is Whip City Fiber.
Yeah, it used to be Comcast. We'd have it
Also,
quoted
the
every
internet
year.
now is that it's all bid out every 3 years, but the internet is also the Whip City Fiber usually comes in below everybody else.
Yeah. Well, the other one, and this makes sense for way back then, specifically to use natural gas instead of oil in municipal buildings, especially in schools. Now, that would be interesting to see way back in '86, like what the cost of fuel oil was. I bet you it was not, as a reference point. I bet you as a
Natural gas wasn't as popular back then.
It wasn't, but I would be willing to bet that, like fuel oil is expensive today, but back then I bet you it was probably pretty cheap. A shared understanding. This is, they had some common points. The mayor will forward a written request, so that would trigger the activity. The manager will include the request on the agenda for the October board meeting. The board will address the issue of an in lieu of tax contribution and the concept of establishing a committee to recommend how that will be handled. The Westfield Gas Electric will send a representative to the monthly Board of Engineering meetings. The manager will prepare. Oh, you know why that's important? Because in engineering is where the plans for street-related work is going to be done.
Correct.
Right? So there used to be, and it's not bad now. It's way better than it used to be.
People used to just go rip up the road and there'd
Right.
be no coordination.
Yeah, the coordination was suffering. So, since I've been in city government, we would give the list of road work to the G&E. The G&E would give us the list of where they're going to be for gas-related work typically. And to the extent possible, we match that up so that when work was done in the roadway, it could get done appropriately. The worst thing in the world, and it happens on occasion. Not so much that often anymore, but like a road would get paved, and then 3 months later, they wanted to get in it for gas work.
Yeah.
The manager will prepare cost analysis of using natural gas versus oil in the schools, and the mayor will approach the school committee with a report to receive some definitive action on using gas in schools. Now, I don't even there was a little bit of oil action by the time I was in office, but it was often complicated to use oil because it was like a dirty fuel. There's a lot of problems with the burners and stuff, so they tried not to use oil all that often. So. Anyhow, so there's that, okay? And, wow, there was they even went they came up with a calculation. So this is way back when. The following calculations are the result of applying the ILOT formula, the projected net book value of Westfield Gas Electric, including the Texon purchase. That would be the service center, the building, I believe, that they're up in.
Oh, that was an old Texon building?
I believe so. I think so. That would be it. As of December 31, 1993, is $21,932,262. The 1993 commercial tax rate is $24.92. Now, interestingly, the commercial tax rate is only a few dollars more than that today. So, giving a $21,932,000 times $24.92, a total value tax at $546,552. That's interesting. So that's what it would have been if they used that. Formula, which looked like it was the straight value of the plant back then, the book value, the net book value after all expenses, and times the commercial tax rate, and came up with $546,552. Now this is what I don't know. So it said payment allocations that took place. This must have been, I don't know. Things that it paid for outside of that sum, because these things add up to more than that sum. Anyways, it said Westfield Warm Initiative, that would have been fuel oil for homes, I think $45,000. School lighting program, $20,000. Elderly discount, $120,000 towards that. Well, that's interesting. Dig Safe for City, $5,086. Annual census, $12,800. Other mailing, $68,000 in other mailing and postage. Streetlight savings, not sure how they did that back then, but $134,000. Traffic light maintenance savings, $102,000. Christmas lighting, $7,600. Christmas fixtures, $10,000. Goodwill banners, $7,500. Premium pension contribution, that sounds like you probably have to do that, $167,800. Unfunded pension payment, $46,000. And interest on investments, $165,000. Comes up with $912, $983 all-in benefit. And it says we got to come up with, ILAC cash contribution necessary to meet the ILAC formula amount, $366,431 to get to that point. I don't know. So they must have been, hey, this is the things that we're paying for. Here's the calculation on net value. There's a difference between that. Not really sure how this works out. So it goes on to say, in conclusion, the Westfield Gas Electric, if it were a private commercial company, Westfield, its taxes would be $546,552. If the Westfield Gas Electric were a private commercial company, the city would lose money or increase its cost of doing business by $912,983. Ah, that's the difference. The net benefit to the city then is $366,431, or 67% more in taxes from Westfield Gas Electric than what a regular commercial business in the community would pay. Please note that the above results are calculated before a decision is made to add another lump sum cash contribution. That is a very interesting scenario, okay? So anyways, but you know, just a quick trip down memory lane, 1985, just to check in with some communities. So like Ashburnham has a light plant. They were paying back then $30,000. Belmont, $300,000 back then. That's $1985. Concord, $150,000. Danvers, $475,000. Georgetown, $73,000. Groton, $13,000. Groveland, $33,000. Hingham, $82,000. Holden, $67,000. Holyoke, $250,000. Hudson, $200,000. Hull, $32,000. Ipswich, $90,000. Mansfield and Marblehead, $185,000. Merrimack, $5,000. Middleborough, which is a very comparable sized community to Westfield, $540,000 way back then. North Attleboro, $55,000. Norwood, North Attleboro is $174,000. Middleton is $55,000. Next one is Peabody, which is a good size, a little bit bigger, I think, than Westfield, $363,000. Reading, which I don't get this at all. There's not a lot of people in Reading, but they were paying $1 million back then. Shrewsbury, $30,000. South Hadley, $96,000. Taunton is a similar size city to Westfield, $1.15 million. Wakefield, $341,000, and Westfield comes in at $200,000 back then. Holyoke was they didn't list a number back then. Hard to say. So there's not. It's hard to ferret out these numbers. That was a report that was generated way back when from the R.W. Beck and Associates, engineers and consultants that must have been paid for in preparation of having that study committee and whatnot. So interesting scenario on the in lieu of tax payment scenario. So, one of the findings of recently, which is, kind of a challenge here in Westfield, is a couple things. So in that early 2000s period, there was, I read the history of what the payments were. There wasn't a lot of bad blood. I mean, I would say like back in '85, by the way, there was a pretty historic event that occurred in Westfield. Do you know what it was offhand?
85?
Yeah.
I would have been a sophomore in high school. So
Well, it was the
not.
burning of the J.J. Newberry site. I want to
Okay.
say it was September of 95-ish. Excuse me, of 85 back then. I want to say it was about that time. So an interesting development there is you had that big burned out area, and sometime later the G&E put forward a plan called Elm Street Commons to build a office building on that site, which would have been kind of cool. Probably would have changed the dynamic of Elm Street for a number of years. I'm not really sure if Elm Street would have become a lot different than what you see today, but it certainly wouldn't have. We wouldn't have had a hole there for all these years if they had done that. It was put forward. I don't have all the dollar values or anything on that, but I do remember this. I believe when it went to council, because it was supposed to be a bond, needed to get council approval to bond, and the G&E would pay for it, of course, and that was always kind of the historic rub with the G&E, is that if they needed to bond, they had to come to the city council. And so that vote did not pass by one vote. And that struck the future of Elm Street for all those years. And that building today would be where the Performance Pavilion is, down there in the Common, in that area, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And then, shortly thereafter, they don't do this job. And I don't remember how much space was going to be in there, but the Strathmore Paper Company was looking for some Class A office space, and we didn't have any in Westfield back then. and they moved their headquarters from South Broad Street down to near a new building near the airport. And I had always wondered back in the day if the Genie had built that structure and had office space available, would Strathmore had moved out of town. Long story short, I mean, Strathmore ended up getting bought out, and they're not, the plant shut down. It's now Sullivan Transportation, but who knows? Maybe those jobs would have stayed in town a little bit longer. I don't really know, but in any event, the project didn't get done, right? So, fast forward, early 2000s. There's this plan for this thing called the Tech Center, and you remember the Tech Center? You worked out of the Tech Center.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Genie was going to take the lead on it, and they were going to finance it, but then they were going to do a finance deduction on the bond payment for the Tech Center, which became a kind of a contentious point at the time with the city council. So had a lot of negotiations. I was part of those back then. The building got built anyways, and the gas and electric did not participate in that project. So way back when, June 9th, 2004, it's the policy of the Municipal Light Board that income determined by Mass General Law, Chapter 164, and after payment of all gross expenses of the plant as defined by Mass General Law, Chapter 164, to include the cost of operation, maintenance, and repair of the plant, the interest on the bonds, notes, or certificates of indebtedness issued to pay for the plant, renewals in excess of ordinary repairs, extensions, so on and so forth, be calculated for determination of an in lieu of tax payment to the city. And way back then, I want to say we had a consultant come in, and they brought us back to the formula-driven approach that was talked about in 1985, 86 when I was reading that letter. So a formula mechanism that automatically and predictably determines the ILOT each year as outlined in the memorandum from the general manager as presented at this meeting. The ILOT shall be calculated, again, back then, not 100% of plant value, but 80% of the book value of the general plant as contained in the Department of Telecom annual report for the most recent fiscal year, accounts number 389 to 399 inclusive, multiplied by the CIP rate, and at the time it was $29.58 per $1,000 to calculate the ILOT. However, that being said, the ILOT shall be calculated by reducing the payment, ILOT, as calculated above by and agreed upon for non-statutory goods and services voluntarily provided by the G&E to the city, including but not limited to traffic light maintenance at agreed upon annual rate of $60,000. I believe all these years later it's still $60,000. And annual debt service on any bonds issued related to the Tech Center, and this credit to be no less than $106,800. Now that didn't ever come to fruition, but they took a deduction on that. So back then, your commission members were Kevin Kelleher, yes. John Pelzinski, no. Billy Buzzy, yes. Franny Liptak, yes. Tom Flaherty, yes. Bob Sacco, yes. So Kevin was Ward 1. Bob is Ward 6. Tommy was Ward 5. Franny was Ward 4. Billy was Ward 3. And John Pelzinski was Ward 2. John Pelzinski is also of note. Why?
Former mayor?
Right. And he was a former recipient. I remember we had the numbers from back
Wasn't
then.
he also an accountant?
He was actually not an accountant, but he had a tax preparation business.
Gotcha.
Right where Sagan and Pignataire is today. Or Pignataire and Sagan. I forget exactly which comes first. So that was good, right? Did that every year. And then 07 May, got a little change here. So they changed it in a meeting from 80% of plant value down to 70%. And they calculated $310,000 on the formula. The ILOT ended up coming up at $374,458. Payment's going to be after those deducts, $314,458. The commission then, Buzzy, aye. Liptak, aye. Flaherty, aye. Kelleher, aye. Sacco, aye. Motion passed 5-0. Okay, 3 years later, it's still the same. Fast forward 6 more years later, what happens again? That the Municipal Light Board retains the same formula regarding the aluminum tax payment to the city with a cap at $500,000. Now, you remember, from the period like 08 to 2013, the city undertook a massive amount of construction, right? So the G&E was asked to put in all of this equipment, new gas piping, and a lot of electrical stuff, and so that increases the plant value. So I remember this because I was in office at the time. The plant value was growing really rapidly at the time, right? And so they decided to cap it. And this, after you did the deduct for traffic light maintenance, it got to $440. So that was good for X number of years. And then in 2017, they came back at it again, and back then for the 2018 year, the Municipal Light Board removes the cap on the in lieu of tax payment. They determined that the ILOT payment should be in the amount of $621,498, with the understanding consistent with discussions between the city and the gas electric, that up to half of the difference between the cap voted in 2013 and the new ILOT will be used for the city for energy efficiency projects, because the city took a Green Communities grant in 2016 thereabouts, I think. And so they had a couple $100,000 worth of energy efficiency. And that's a benefit to the Genie, because as the city got efficient, like one of the things we did was street light investment with
Yep.
LEDs, and a lot of buildings and stuff. Like I remember when we did like natural gas conversion from boiling water boilers in the schools to hot water. The savings in gas was like, I want to say at the tech campus was like 60% year over year, and
when
Southampton
they did
Road
the-
and Highland was like 40%.
When
Massive.
they redid the HVAC and
Yeah, all
everything.
that stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, you had a massive gas savings, right? And then, so the number ended up, the CIP though back then was $37 per thousand. And so what happened is they invested a lot, value became more, CIP went up quite a bit, and that payment kind of got, out of balance, I suppose, from their opinion, So long story short, pretty much been the same since then, but what's happened over the last X number of years is the CIP has gone down now. So I want to say that the CIP rate now, tax year 2004, it was 29.58. Tax year 25, it's going to be 29.17. So it's actually a factor less of about 40 cents, right? So it's less. So it's still 70%, 70% of plant value, but the tax rate is a lot less than it was historically, right? So it's a problem. I don't know, just to go on record. First of all, the Genie should be commended for doing the fiber fields thing. That's going to be a great thing for sure. That's, off of
The high
city
school
fiber.
project?
Yeah. So $11 million, I think they've pledged, right? That's a wonderful thing. But there's the ILOT is just, my opinion would be it's broke. I do support the idea of some sort of mayor/MLB, commission inputs from the general manager and whatnot to take a look at it. Because I've always said this, as the city grows, as the plant becomes more valuable, shouldn't the city to some degree share in that, right? That would just be my viewpoint. Never been a light commissioner or anything like that. I'm just kind of saying, I think that's the way it should be. And then just knowing how these payments have been structured over the years. I mean, it is generally formula-based. There's a few things that, adjust the formula, but the CIP rate is the single biggest game changer in recent history that are kind of hamstringing that. But anyways, I've told the mayor, I've asked the mayor and the city council president, I've given you the information. It's up to you guys if you want to follow through with it and do something. But clearly, as I articulated in this year's budget session, the mayor's position was we need to do the 4% levy increase to kind of cut into that, if you will, financial deficit that's structurally inside the city's budget. And, and I just referenced that with the $2 million in free cash, $1.25 million in stabilization. So you're already down $3.25 million. So if, using his math and projecting things out and having expenses be what they are, 2.5% every year, growth in revenue at 3%, and some state aid, a little bit of state aid growth, you can close that structural gap in about 4 years. If you tax that 2.5%, you never close it. Even if you get more of an in lieu of tax payment, even if you get more state, you just don't. You're leaving $1.5 million and plus probably on the table every year. That compounds, so it gets worse exponentially. So there's no magic answer. One thing about government is it's year to year, which is probably not the best way to do things. And and as I mentioned to the council the other night, we're going to have to pick up this situation next year and work with the mayor at some point, after the turn of the year and say, all right, what does it look like? Hopefully the state will come around and kick in some more state aid. Maybe there's going to be a little bit more in ILOT. But even if the ILOT changes by 100,000, it doesn't structurally change the dynamic, which is there's just not enough state aid to offset the pressure that's on the 2.5%. And there's a number of us on the council that really believe in Prop 2.5. It's a mandate by the voters, and it's going to get harder and harder to stay within that if something dramatically doesn't change at the state government level.
Well, that's been the problem with the state. Any government above you they come up with these great ideas and they're never funded.
Well, they're funding their great ideas, but they've forgotten. And
Well, they mandate stuff on local
Right.
municipalities, whether it's, and a lot of it's through the school department. 'Cause
Well, there's
I
that.
hear about that
Yeah.
all the time.
But there's also like collective bargaining agreements too. I mean, all of the rules on, so there was a lot written on collective bargaining, and isn't it like a bit of a conundrum to have the employees have an association or a union, and then, the city's management represents the taxpayers in these negotiations, and isn't that inherently a bit of a problem? And then the governor isn't subject to collective bargaining requirements like the locals are. And so collective bargaining is tough because our hands are tied. Privatization. People always say, well, why don't you privatize something? Well, there's something called the Pacheco Law. And the Pacheco Law was designed so that, if it cost the city, and I'll just make up the numbers, $100 to do something, you couldn't just go to the private market and get a contractor to do it at half that value. You have to compare apples to apples now. So if the wage rate, or you have to, do some sort of cost benefit analysis. If you don't achieve the analysis, you can't do it. Well, what's baked into that equation is prevailing wage. Prevailing wage and the requirement to pay that is going to ruin every privatization effort. The other thing you could do is maybe make an allocation at the state level that a certain dollar value in contracts aren't subject to prevailing wage. And I give you the example of, I'm a painter. I work for Joe's Painting, and I'm going to paint your house, Pete, this weekend. I'm going to pay my help maybe $20 an hour, maybe 25. But if I paint for the city, I'm going to pay him prevailing wage, which is probably north of $40, and with benefits, it's probably north of $50. Same job, same person. What's the difference? The person paying the bill, taxpayer versus private payer. So that's inherently a problem, and that drives a lot of costs on a lot of projects. So there's that. You got to live with that, right? There's no. I'll go back to this. There's no easy answer on any of these things. I do know, that the city's budget's now $180 million, a little bit less than that now. It was about $128 million, I think, in my day. So, it's going to go up because everything else goes up, and you got to pay for all that stuff,
Yep. Unfortunately. And we've seen how much it's increased over the value of a dollar has increased.
Well, the inflation.
Inflation with the more dollars you have to pay for the same amount of goods and services.
Yeah, I mean, cost of electricity. Even though we're very fortunate to be in a light plant territory, there's still a higher cost. Natural gas, a higher cost. The inflation from the Biden era, that's never gone out of the economy. So that's like whatever you see with inflation today, compound that by 9%.
Yep.
That was in there a few years back. So, and then you got this artificial constraint at 2.5%. And there's still maybe, I think, 9 or 10 million in levy capacity that could be gotten, but there'll be pressure going forward into the future if nothing else changes for the city to go after that excess levy capacity till there's no more.
Well, and we're seeing a lot of towns. The taxpayers are fed up.
They're fed up, right?
They're not passing 2.5 overrides.
Well, especially
anymore.
they're not passing them for like general things. Like they'll say, if you can say like, if you don't pass this, there's going to be 20 layoffs in the fire department. They'll probably pass that because they don't want to do that.
I don't know. The public safety took a big hit in South Hadley.
Well, but see, the part of the South Hadley problem is they were, it was like the a la carte thing. Well, there's the 9 or 11 million option, and then there's a 6.9. So when the city leaders or town leaders talk confusingly, it confuses voters, and the voters go, I can't trust this stuff. And so like East Hampton was interesting because it came out in the days right afterwards that there was a lot of miscues on the city's budget there and what the numbers meant, and it was a little bit slippery. Like, well, 6.9 million. What are we going to get for that? It really comes down to, if you're asking me to give me, to take more of my money, what am I going to get? And I think you have to explain that directly, like a debt exclusion. I need $100 more a year to pay for that school building. Let's go and do a ballot debt exclusion. That's pretty basic, right?
That's called leveling with the voters. That doesn't seem to happen a lot.
No, and so there's been this. I don't get it.
I watched the mayor level with the voters, the way he was looking at it, going, "Hey, this is the reality of it.
Yeah,
and I'll take the hit for it. and I'm going to take the hit for
Right.
it.
Oh no, I have no. The mayor was very clear because he shared. We shared a lot of numbers going back and forth, and
Yeah.
he sees the math. And there's no debate on that. I said to.
But I
our
watched him
side-
in city council meeting be very
Yeah.
clear about it.
Yeah. Well, I was very clear. It's like, hey, if you take this vote at 2.5%, remember you're going to be sitting at this table. It's going to, if nothing changes, it's going to get a lot worse next year.
Yep.
So, but a lot of bodies have been putting forth in these town administrators like, we just need like $2.5 million to just fill the budget accounts or whatever. And that's just not really a good strategy to run your government. You really need to define what exactly will happen if I don't get this.
Yeah, this is the consequences of not funding the budget.
Yeah, and then I don't know what the history, but I'm not sure if Westfield is. It hasn't had a lot of override votes over the years, especially in my lifetime. It's
I don't
been
remember any
less than a handful.
Yeah, I don't remember many since I've been here in town, and that's been 20 years.
There hasn't been any since probably the 80s when they
That's
were
what I'm
trying to
saying.
figure things out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, I do, like 80s was tough because Prop 2.5 came along and they were trying to get everything, settled out, and there was a lot more probably staffing. Clearly there was more staffing. We have more road miles today than we had in 1980, but the DPW was bigger back in 1980. So I don't know. Again, I'll go back to this.
The equipment was also different, too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some jobs, I don't know. It's tough right nowadays because I bet you the overall staffing of the city has gone down by, 10, 12%?
Well, so that's an interesting question because, like the school population going back to the 70s was probably closer to 8,000, maybe 7,800 kids, and it's just over 5,000 now. So, what you find kind of, I think, in looking at some demographic trends, there is a website that has tracked all this stuff, and I ran a report years ago.
When we went to high school, Westfield High was like 2,000 kids.
Yeah, it was about 2,000, right? So
now
but
it's what, 1,200?
it's maybe 1,200. I don't even
Yeah.
think it's that big. But so what's happened in a lot of districts, though, is the teacher layoffs have been pretty significant, but they've added different jobs in like what I'd call needed professional services, like paras related to special ed type of scenario. So the teacher count typically went down, but those other admin or other staffing jobs often went up in a lot of communities.
Yep.
So it's like I said, it's things are different than they were back in 1980 for sure. But anyways, that was the focal point of the show today. So we got more money, more problems.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Can you give me that song, or can you not give me that
Yeah,
song?
I can give you
today?
that song.
Give me that song today because it's probably time to wrap this show up for this session. No?
All right.
All right. There you go. All right, signing off till the next time, which I don't know when because we gotta come up with a date, Pete. But let's go out on this tune.
Now, who's hot, who not? Tell me who rock, who sell out in the stores. You tell me who flop, who cop the blue drop, who jewels got blocks, who mostly Dolce down to the two top. The same old pimp, Mace, you know ain't nothing changed but my limp. Can't stop till I see my name on the blimp. Guarantee a million sales, pull a level up. You don't believe in Harlem World? Double up. We don't play around, it's a bet, lay it down. Didn't know me 91, bet they know me now. I'm the young Harlem with the Goldie sound. Can't no PD, hold me down, cooler. School me to the game, now I know my duty. Stay humble, stay low, blow like Hootie. True pimp, spin no dough on the booty. And when you yell, there go Mace, there go your cutie. See me die than to see me fly. I call all the shots, rip all the spots, rock all the rocks, cop all the drops. I know you're thinking now when all the ball is stopped. Never home, gotta call me on the yacht. 10 years from now, we'll still be on top. Yo, I thought I told you that we won't stop. Now what you gonna do with a crew that got money much longer than yours, and a team much stronger than yours? Violate me, this a BO day. We don't play, mess around, be DOA. Be on your way, cause it ain't enough time here. Ain't enough lime here for you to shine here. Deal with many women, but treat down's fair. And I'm bigger than the city lights down in Times Square. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
PPA, no info,
for the DEA. Federal agents mad cause I'm flagrant. Tap myself and the phone in the basement. My team supreme, stay clean. Triple beam, lyrical dream. I be that. Catch a seat at all events bent. In holsters, girls on shoulders, playboy. I told ya, me and Mike's to me, bruise too much, I lose too much. Step on stage, the girls boo too much. I guess it's cause you run with lame dudes too much. Me lose my touch, never that. If I did, ain't no problem to get the where the true players at. Throw your rollies in the sky, waving side to side, and keep your hands high while I give your girl an eye. Player please, lyrically. C, B-I-G-B flossing, jig on the cover of Fortune, 500. Here's my phone number, your man ain't got the know. I got the dough, got the flow down, pizzazz, platinum plus, like Zizak, dangerous on Trizak, leave you with Trizak.